Welcome to video number 3 in this 13th module, which is about radical self-love. And this video is based on an article I wrote some time ago, but which nevertheless builds on what we've already said in the previous modules about letting go of our attachments to false ideas about for ourselves just the way we are, in all our power and magnificence. Personal power, like happiness and self-love, is an inside job. If we don't feel good about ourselves, or we pretend to be other than our authentic selves, we have no fire within to project out as power. We are contracted and shut down. We don't believe in ourselves, so how can we get others to believe in us? The archenemy of personal power is shame. Having been shamed at some time in our lives, we've come to the point where we believe that we are inherently bad. The result of being consistently and severely shamed is a feeling of self-loathing. Unfortunately, self-loathing is surprisingly common. It can range from a vague feeling of not being quite okay, expressed in such extreme ways as self-mutilation and other forms of self-punishment or even suicide. When someone shames us, they take our power away, and we feel a deep remorse over who we think we are. Guilt compounds the shame. The radical self-empowerment strategy offers the client tools and programs that seek to dissolve the guilt and shame, while raising feelings of self-worth, deservability, and self-esteem. The main tools that you have available to use are the Radical Self-Empowerment Worksheet, the online Radical Self-Forgiveness and Self-Acceptance Program, the Radical Self-Acceptance Worksheet, the 13 Steps to Radical Self-Forgiveness Audio, and the 3 Letters to Radical Self-Empowerment. The net result of being shamed is that we develop a set of ideas about scopes for our lives and determine what happens. These ideas become core negative beliefs about who we are, such as I am worthless, I'm bad, I'm no good, and so on. Beliefs like this then become the basis for a new, more complex belief, such as I am worthless, so people never value me or see me as being important or worth listening to. I'm bad, so no one will ever want me, and I will always be alone. I'm no good, so I don't deserve to have much in life. I'm not enough, so people will always leave me when they find out who I really am. How toxic is a belief based on shame? Very toxic. In fact, it can even kill you. Psychotherapist, author, and researcher Lawrence Lashan has spent a lifetime working with cancer patients, studying the mind-body connection. In his book, Cancer as a Turning Point, he revealed his discovery that the underlying unconscious belief, which was common to virtually every cancer patient he ever worked with, was as follows. Quote, if I show up as who I am, no one will love me. Therefore, in order to be loved, I have to pretend to be someone I'm not. There are 5 steps in the process of transforming these core negative beliefs. These are: number 1, discover them. Number 2, recognize them. Number 3, evaluate them. Number 4, neutralize them. And number 5, transform them. These will form the basis for your conversation with a client who is working on self-worth issues. Let's look at each in turn. Step number 1 is discovering the beliefs. Your clients may have an awareness of some of them already, but for those beliefs that are more deeply buried in the subconscious mind, you might need to do some detective work to find out what they are. That would be difficult, but for the fact that beliefs actually create our reality. That means one's subconscious beliefs can be inferred from what is showing up in one's life. Life will always mirror us, no matter what they are. For example, taking this observation, I don't have much of anything in my life. The likely belief attached to that observation, I'm not deserving of or not worthy of it. Observation, I always seem to screw things up. Observation, I always seem to screw things up. Likely belief, I can never do it right. Observation, I've always had to work hard to survive. Likely belief, I have to struggle in life. Also, through the law of attraction, exactly in accordance with those beliefs. This helps even more in discovering what they are. For example, observation, people seem not to notice me. Likely belief, I'm invisible. Observation, people don't listen to me. Likely belief, I've nothing worthwhile to say. Observation, people are always trying to change me. Likely belief, I'm not okay the way I am. Observation, people seem to ignore me or pass me by. Likely belief, I'm invisible. Observation, my relationships never last long. Likely belief, I'm unlovable. Here are some examples of shame-based core negative beliefs that are likely to show up in your client during a session. Take a look at the beliefs listed below and check which ones you think might be better in your life. You might make this into a checklist to give out to clients or workshop participants. I have to be perfect to be loved. If I show up as me, no one will love me. I have to struggle for everything. I never quite measure up. I don't deserve love. Others are more important than me. I don't matter. I can never do it right. I always do it wrong. I'm not worthy of love. I don't deserve love. I'll never make it on my own. My life has no real value. I'm always left out of everything. I can't trust anyone. I'm invisible and hardly ever noticed. I'm all alone in the world. I'm not worthy of money or riches. To be loved, I need to be sick. I'll never be good enough. I will always be alone. To be loved, I have to be not me. There is never enough for me. Something must be wrong with me. I have enough money. I'll never be a success. Bad things always happen to me. I can't have what I really want. I'm just not lovable the way I am. I will always fail at everything. I have to work hard for everything. If I open my heart, I'll get hurt. I'm not likable. I'll never be good enough. It's not safe to be me. I'm a failure. I shouldn't even have been born. If I tell the truth, they will leave. My feelings are not important. I create my own bad reality. I'm spiritually flawed. I'm not smart enough. I'm intimidating to others. Okay, so now let's go to step number 2, which is to recognize the voices from the past. We don't just make these beliefs up. They came from somewhere, or more accurately, from someone. Somebody shamed us into thinking bad. We can fairly say that most of our beliefs about ourselves are set in our earliest years. It follows that for most of us at least, it was our parents who were our primary influences in this regard. By and large, they taught us everything we know about ourselves, by what they said or didn't say, to us or about us, or what they did or didn't do to us and for us, and by how they reacted to us whenever we ventured to express our true nature. Now let me modify what I just said. Yes, it seems like our parents taught us what to think about ourselves. But this is not always true. Other than those of us who clearly were cruelly and intentionally shamed by their parents, most of us inferred from their words and their behavior what kind of person we were and would become. And for the most part, we were why our beliefs are almost always wrong. As you know, my sister Jill came to feel not enough by initially inferring from her father that because he wasn't demonstrative towards her, that is to say, not bouncing her on his knee, for example, that he did not love her. That was untrue, but it was her perception at the time. She then extrapolated from that original interpretation of the situation that if her own father couldn't or wouldn't or didn't love her, then she wasn't enough for him. Therefore, she would never be enough for any man. That became her core negative belief. She recreated that story in her life over and over. As her last marriage was about to break up, she was finally able to see how her husband was reflecting that belief back to her by treating her as if she was indeed not enough. We obviously infer what kind of a person we are from how people treat us. If we get beaten every day, we conclude that we are deserving of it and must be deeply flawed. We typically carry such a belief to our grave because we fail to see that the man or woman who beat us was deeply wounded and flawed, and that it was not about us, it was about them. So you will have to decide whether the client will need to do some radical forgiveness around the parents as well as radical self-acceptance. Okay, now going on to step 3, which is to evaluate the beliefs. This step will require some honesty and courage on the part of your client to face the fact that while most of the beliefs may well be false, some of what others criticize them for, and even punish them for, may have an element of truth about them. If that is the case, accept them, even if they're not pretty. A very large part of coming to love ourselves is owning our shadow. We all have aspects of ourselves that are dark and not nice at all. We can all be Dr. Jekyll one day and Mr. Hyde the next. One of the last remaining prosecutors of the top Nazis at the Nuremberg trial, who were responsible for the cold-blooded murder of millions of Jews, said that the one thing he couldn't get over was that all of them were actually very nice men, well-educated, sophisticated, and kind to those other than the people they'd come to think of as less than human. Nice in many ways, but evil in others. We are all capable of both. Coming now to step number 4, which is to neutralize the beliefs. The only way to neutralize, and one way to do this is to turn it around to where you are able to see that what was previously criticized in you in a more positive light. For example, if you were criticized for being undisciplined, perhaps it could be seen as evidence of your creative mind that likes to think laterally and outside of the box. By doing this, you take the charge out of the original criticism and thereby neutralize the shame-based belief. Now it's at step 5 that we actually transform the beliefs. And the only way to fully transform these beliefs is not by trying to eliminate them or modify them, but by accepting them just the way they are. This is not the work of the ego, but can only be achieved through the services of that part of our psyche known as our spiritual intelligence. Spiritual intelligence is by using the worksheets and other tools provided by the Radical Forgiveness technology. In this case, it would be the Radical Self-Empowerment worksheet and the Radical Self-Acceptance worksheet. It is only by using one of these tools that the transformation can occur. These steps are outlined in more detail in Chapter 4 of my book, Radical Self-Forgiveness, The Direct Path to True Self-Acceptance. There are research exercises in that book that will be very helpful to use with a client. Besides the worksheet, you should strongly recommend that they do the online Radical Self-Forgiveness Self-Acceptance program. And don't forget, you'll earn an affiliate fee if your client buys the program via your website. In the next video, we'll look at the idea of embracing our shadow.